Hello and welcome back to the I'll Try That podcast. And of course, I am joined by Mr. Joseph Druitt.
Hello.
And Mr. Matthew Barber.
Huh? What?
It both sounds like the bank holiday weekends hit you hard.
Yeah.
Is that the...
Sorry, new phone, who dis?
I've got the Sunday scaries, but it's Monday, isn't it? So is it the Monday mopies or the miserable Mondays?
Just miserable Monday.
Yeah.
Miserable Monday. Oh no, we're having a
miserable
good
Mondays.
time, guys. We're drinking beer in the evening before we start work the next day.
In the bosom
It's
of
good.
our friends.
Well, I'm also on day off tomorrow, so it's all good.
Oh, well, I know who's editing these episodes now.
I hope you enjoy it. You enjoy it, sunshine.
So we are flying back to Copenhagen to try Tuborg. We are arguing over how to pronounce the second part of this beer. I'm going to go for Fiçi. Fiçi?
Fiçi.
Sure.
Fiçi?
Sure.
It's got to be Fiçi. Tuborg
I'd say
Fiçis.
Fiçi.
Tuborg Fiçis.
We're all at the feces at the moment.
But as I suppose a beer with legendary Turkish taste. But we will come back to that in a minute. Who am I handing over to?
It's me.
To Mr. Barber then. Far away.
Beer industry news. Unfortunately, times are hard. There are a lot of breweries struggling at the moment. So actually, I'll put it out as a question to start off with. So there was recently the SIBA craft beer report. What percentage do you think of the breweries asked listed their business priority as survival? What percentage?
Oh, no. Oh, that's sad. So So this is a recent survey by the
SIBA.
SIBA is the. Oh, I'm going to test myself on this one. Independent Brewery Association. Stands for Snake. Independent Brewery.
It's a Society of Independent Brewers.
There you go.
Yeah, that's
Thank
okay.
you.
The A is
Okay, so we're talking craft, like what we would deem as one of the ways of defining craft brewers, right?
yes, yeah, of course. It's good to have an authority like Dravers here, just to
That's a
nod
fair
along
point.
on that
He is here.
As the regional expert for craft beer.
So,
To be fair, actually, Drabbers, I feel like you just out of principle and for bringing your validation point to this podcast, you need to get a SIBA membership because, as we know, Barber's got the camera membership.
Okay, yeah.
And you need to take the counterpoint to that, to this, and given I'm the only, done my first round of Cicerone qualification, I can come from that side.
Okay, all right. I will look into getting my membership.
You should get your SIBA membership. Barber's got camera, and then I've got some level of dabble in Cicerone.
And then,
anyway,
but
Travers, you were saying.
Was I? I don't know. Were we guessing the percentage? I wasn't saying a lot. I don't think.
So, we've made light, fortunately, of a very delicate subject of. So, SIBA did asked a load of brewers what their number one business priority is. A certain amount said survival. How many do you think, as a percentage?
That's terrifying.
42%.
Yeah, to make it to a news article, I've got to say it's quite high. To
be fair, this isn't the article. This was something that came out within the article.
Okay. I'd say maybe it's like if he went 52%, I go 53%.
63%. So high, a little bit higher.
Okay.
So that was, good game, everyone.
Wow.
Basically, it was just
62% of respondents thought that survival is the only priority for them.
Well, that is their main focus. I'm sure they obviously have everyone do other things as well. But So actually, it's basically good news is one of these breweries that was struggling was Brew by Numbers, and they called
I really like them.
Yeah, they called in the administrators this year, but fortunately, they have been now sort of rescued, brought out by Breel Capital, who are the company who bought Black Sheep Brewery. From Marston's, and also Peckham-based Brick Brewery. Sorry, got it. Nearly forgot.
Oh yes, okay, awesome. Actually, some quite well-known names.
Yeah, there was another one in here somewhere about is a hybrid wine bar, Vinoteca. Sorry, another podcast. Ignore that for now. But to be honest, actually, I was reading the article anyway, and I was going, "Oh, okay, there's a brewery been rescued," and I went, "Hang on a minute." brew by numbers. The thing is, there are things that get in the way of making the business work. But brew by numbers were such good beers.
They were really good,
incredible beers. I've always had a great brew by numbers beer.
The episode we did on them, I was just there like, wow. I think I had a few left over that I really, really enjoyed. But I should put money where my mouth is. I'm just going to get hold of some to kind of support that.
Well, we did have brew by numbers beers, I think, at the beer festival we were recently at. Now, I thought we all said it was absolutely outstanding because I've always enjoyed my brew by numbers beers. I'm sorry to hear they're going through financial difficulties.
Well, fortunately, Briel Capital have stepped in and go and basically sort them out. So, and I think that one of our spokespeople has said, look, there's I've got the words. In fact, we'll give you the actual words. Brew by Numbers is a unique, well-established product range and a well-known and equally well-known brand that add considerable value to the wider product offerings of Brick and Black Sheep breweries. Yeah, so the reason that they are getting the support there is because, or being taken over, was because it was such a good product, and they were so good. But the reasons being cited for the difficulties. There's been problems over the last few years, but this is due in particular. This is coming from Colin Hardman, who's a partner at Evelyn Partners, who are the joint administrators.
Classic Colin.
Due in particular to the pandemic, post-Brexit complexity of export paperwork. So I'm not taking it to a political place. Increased material cost, reduced discretionary spending, and changes to beer duty laws. So.
Oh. God.
There we go. We spoke about that a little bit before. So basically,
it's just make everything more complicated.
Yeah.
Well, it's complicated and painful for businesses to operate and run. Red tape, basically, and the bureaucracy. That's what I can't stand. Not to take it to a political place, but Jesus, if bureaucracy is the reason why businesses can't flourish, then get rid of bureaucracy. That's my opinion.
Just make things easier. Like if we're losing so many businesses and so many good, especially in the brewing industry.
They've made it worse. They've made it harder for the businesses to operate after a post-pandemic world. I don't understand this. And
beer helps people. Like why are we making it hard for beer?
Well, especially in the world where someone like where companies like Black Sheep, who make incredible beers, we talked about them on the pod, Brew by Numbers make incredible beers. I'm sorry to say they're going through this as well. And what was that other brewery you mentioned? A Brick Brewery as well. It's three actually really good breweries. This isn't they make rubbish product. These are incredibly tasty beers. And so it just kind of shows that this is the work here is not there's so much effort that will have been put into all of those breweries, and the fact that they just can't operate is terrifying to me.
Brings it home a bit, doesn't it, when it's a brand or a product that you particularly like, because occasionally you see that. I think it's quite easy, well, not easy, but understandable for people. They see it on the news and hear about businesses struggling, and they sometimes, if it's not something they particularly care about, they're going to go, that's a shame. But
and I really don't want to get to a
point. It goes by the by a bit.
Yeah, I really don't want to get to a point in this podcast where we're just reviewing carling every week because that's all that's left.
Agreed. You've got to join camera, mate.
Yeah.
That's what you want to
do. No, he'll bring us all the hot takes from SIBA. He'll be part of the membership newsletter, from SIBA. He'll be getting all the hot advice. But yeah, no, I'm pleased at least this isn't the last we're hearing of Brew by Numbers. There's a positive spin on this, that they're getting the financial support they need to keep making the fantastic beers. So go out there and, support Brew by Numbers, support Black Sheep, support Brick Brewing, support your locals as well, because there is a real need here to keep these fantastic brewers afloat.
Yeah, unfortunately, the dark side of the story is that, because this is the one we're hearing about there being someone buying them out, there's probably a fair few that you're not hearing about because they weren't bought out, unfortunately. So, as Joe says, the positive message to take away is go and support them.
Shop local.
Talking of local, should we talk about one of the massive brewery worlds?
Let's talk Carlsberg Group.
Yeah.
But in fairness, though, on a macro scale, which we've gone from micro and we're now talking macro scale, the fact that the Carlsberg Marston's in the UK is its own entity is showing there's a consolidation of the brewing world happening. So whether you're a microbrewery, macrobrewery, or an intermediary, the pressures on breweries is being felt no matter what. I guess is the kind of the takeaway on this. So, Carlsberg Group. Specifically, what, Rich?
Tuborg Fiçi. Possibly feces, we don't know.
Fizzy Tuborg.
Fizzy.
I might say right from the very start, this isn't feces.
We're not drinking feces. We're just
F-I-C with a little squiggle on the bottom, I. I thought the squiggle means it's like an S sound, but what we're doing with those I's, no one knows.
Nobody knows.
I take Barbara's opinion on this with the little squiggly thing, because he is the most travelled out of the far travelled out of the three of us.
He's been to Bolton.
If he tells us a squiggly C means S, then I'll go with it.
Yeah. But yeah, we're going back to Tuborg, and I've always had a fond memory of Tuborg from mine and Joe's first ever skiing adventure together to Bulgaria, which is where we first tried Tuborg. That's it.
I always say Tuborg. Is it Turborg or Turdborg? What am I meant to say?
No, surely not.
Let's not go there.
We're not going there.
I think, and I'm always familiar with the green one, the original. That's the Tuborg original green.
Well, that was it. Well, this is what drew my fancy to it a bit, because I always remember liking Tuborg, but haven't really drunk it or seen it in the UK since. I've never seen it in the UK until I saw it when I was in a shop, and I can't remember the name of the shop. It wasn't my favourite Wise Buys, don't worry. But what drew me to it was the bottle.
Yeah, this is real distinctive, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing I was going to throw in was I think when we said we were doing a Tuborg beer, there is one great unifier for anyone's experience of a Tuborg, whether they've been at the Fiçi or if they've been on the green or whatever. And there's and what am I going to say? Tuborg, the one with
the lid.
The lid.
Yeah, possibly.
They've got their own. Grolsch have got their own. Everyone else just has normal lids, but they're kind of like ring pull, but on a bottle. That's how I remember. Tuborg.
They're really interesting unique opening. I think they own this kind of ring pull idea.
Yeah,
I've not seen anyone else do it on this scale like Tuborg do. I've just found out about where the Tuborg name comes from.
Oh, okay.
And I think you guys are going to really like this. So, Tuborg is Danish. It's part of the Carlsberg Group. It's one of their long established. The Carlsberg Group's 1847. I think they started as Carlsberg or something. And Tuborg was one of the very first beers that was breweries that was in this group, right? So, Tuborg. And Barbara, I'm going to test your Danish in a second as well on this one. Obviously, you're the man of many accents and languages, and you know this. So, Tuborg is actually a name. It's of a place. It's not just just made up, as we like Foster's or something. So it's
Foster's is a place.
It's definitely not a place.
Fair enough.
It's a name of someone.
Someone's going to be
called something Foster.
Yeah. Dr. Foster.
It's made up,
and they come from a place.
Anyway, let's let him get on.
Anyway, we're not talking about Fosters again. We've covered Fosters. So this is Tuborg, which is located where the first brewery was, and this is a very old-timey photo, so it's a very old brewery. It was located in Jonas Tues, and Tues Borg. Going to get anyone to know what Borg might mean in Danish?
Mountain.
Bog.
Oh, bog, mountain. It means castle in Danish.
Oh, okay.
So Tues Borg is the Tues family castle.
Okay.
Tuborg. And that's where the brewery name got its name from.
I see.
Oh, okay.
So this is 1888 that Tuborg built a 26-meter tall bottle that doubled as an escalator.
26-meter tall bottle?
Yeah, this is something else. I've just scrolled down the page and I thought that was the name when the brewery started, but it's definitely something else.
So they built a massive Tuborg bottle with an escalator inside.
Massive. There's like a painting of it, because obviously this is 1888. It's massive. It has an elevator inside it, it's always someone in there cranking up to make it go, and it's a huge
someone
bottle.
In there doing
this
what? Sorry.
A giant bottle. This is basically a 26-meter tall bottle with an escalator on the inside of it. And all I can say is this is early levels of big out-of-home investment of advertising. It's an advertising stunt. They've made a huge bottle out of it.
I'm looking at it right now. That's ridiculous. That's amazing.
Yeah. I can't listen. Link me.
That's great. I think more breweries. I'm just getting it now, mate. I think more breweries should be doing this.
It's still there. 100 years later, it's still there.
Play. Probably built out of asbestos, so that stuff lasts.
Yeah, stands the test of time. So that is Tuborg. I mean, we haven't done Tuborg yet on the podcast. Have we?
I'm not gonna lie. I would remember a giant bottle.
Yeah. So this is a bit of a kind of a soul searching of like why we're talking about Tuborg, but we are meant to be talking about a Turkish beer, aren't we?
Yes, or Turkish inspired.
First off the bat, I love a DDV. New acronym. a distinctive drinking vessel. And look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that.
I love a DDV as well.
Lovely old-timey, brown bottle, but also in the style of the old Toby jugs. Like, that kind of like, it's almost got panels in the glass.
Yep. The Fiçi in the middle is kind of like got this
goldy
indented
kind of,
it's got, and it's also it's in a little like it doesn't have the whole indenty bits as you were talking about. It's like this like little mirrors. It's got its own like little surface. It's
a little bit shiny too, and it's got this lovely kind of rich brown and gold kind of vibe. And I always think the browniness kind of nods to this is supposedly 100% malt, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
Malt. And I always think the brown sort of adds to that kind of vibe.
Well, signifying that, I handed this bottle with the cap on to my wife, and she was like, "Oh, I was expecting it to be a lot heavier." And I was like, "Well, that's good. That's because it's very dark brown, isn't it? It's got this, And actually, Barbs, you've poured it out. What is the liquid color on the inside?
A lovely kind of golden kind of straw sort of vibe. Yeah, very clear.
I would have thought it would be a lot darker based on the bottle.
It's quite light indeed. Actually, that did come as a bit of a surprise to me.
So I was expecting when I picked this up to be a lot like a heavier feeling beer to drink.
Yes,
sort of thing. I was expecting it to be with the way the bottle, the design is, and kind of like Tuborg, the lager being, from what I remember, being quite light and refreshing. And I was expecting this to be a lot heavier, a lot darker, and a bit more full on to be drinking, but it's not. It's light and crisp, which I've got to give.
I think it's great. I think it refers to itself as a deluxe pilsner, and I think that's quite an interesting to break those words down. Obviously, we know what a pilsner is. We've got an interesting. You say the word pilsner. There's so many different like kind of things that come to your mind about what a pilsner's like, but the deluxe side of things, I think, is speaking to this like 100% malt kind of flavoring that it's got. It's kind of more full bodied than a normal pilsner would have. It's definitely crisp though. It's got that kind of like taste that you'd expect from a pilsner, but it's something different. If I'm honest, I've not tasted a pilsner that tasted like this before, and this is why I'm finding this quite intriguing.
I can't put my finger on it with it doesn't taste like a normal pilsner, like you've just said, but I'm trying to figure out what the main difference is with it. It's a bit maltier. I don't know.
What's malt? The level of malt that's in it.
I started drinking it and I thought I really liked it. I'm now not so sure.
Tell me more.
I don't know. Weirdly, I think I was expecting like more fizz, which actually is not something I would normally like contest about. I'd be like, I don't want necessarily just a fizzy, gassy thing, but I don't know. I just come back to me in 5 minutes.
Well,
I'm getting malt.
I think maybe to not to dissuade your opinion, obviously, Barbara. Obviously, your credentials on this podcast are valid, and you've been proven back and forth time and time again. But its high quality and unique taste actually earned it an appointment by the Royal Danish Court. So, if you're going against this beer, maybe you're saying that you're going against the Royal Danish Court.
Have you met the Royal Danish Court? Nutters. Absolute nutters.
They know nothing about beer.
Aren't they also responsible for all that Carlsberg that lady brought?
That's a great callback.
It's a great throwback to a hot topic back in the day.
Well, you've got to be doing something right. If the Danish court have gone, you know what? This is kind of good.
We've been taken in. We think that the Danish court is this big thing. They're basically just a Rolex sign at the Formula One. What's the? I'm not convinced. Danish court is also it's up there alongside bacon. That's the thing Denmark is known for, isn't it?
But everything
bacon
about
and
this
Tuborg.
beer that we're having, because this is not a normal Tuborg kind of branding. This looks very different. So let's unpack that a little bit about. So it doesn't look like a normal Tuborg. The fact that it's got gold written all over it, and the fact that it's a legendary Turkish taste. The fact that it's in this, what was that for, that acronym? The
DDV.
DDV, distinctive drinking vessel. The fact that it's in this like 100% malt language, but it's a pilsner. The fact that it's backed by the Royal Danish Court. Everything about this is and it's the fact that it refers to itself as a deluxe pilsner as well. Everything is making it sound as if it should be kind of like regal, should be extra, should be more. Stop there. Okay, carry on.
No, I was just going to... But what confuses me more is it's not advertised anywhere on their website.
Yeah, I've been finding it quite difficult to find more behind this beer. I've even gone down to like looking through Turkish breweries and Turkish beers and whatever. And there are definitely within, the history of Turkey, a lot of Tuborg beers that have been listed, like Tuborg Gold and Tuborg Kırmızı, which is the red one. There's a high ABV. They've got a Carlsberg by Turk Tuborg as well listed on their page, but nothing to do with this Fiçi beer.
So I found, I'm going to go a little bit off topic, but I'm going to talk, because I'm not going to talk about Fiçi, but I'm going to talk about Tuborg. I was struggling. I couldn't get hold of some in time. However, I wanted to do a Tuborg beer for our beer swap. And I was getting very excited about. I don't know if I remember I can't remember if I told you guys, but when I went to Iceland this year, my guide Jon, who's unbelievable knowledge of Iceland, and also just everything to do with the whole country. And I was talking to him about beer because I started talking about. We did a bit of Einstock, I think, and also we were talking about some of the weird, the slightly weirder Christmas beer. I think that the Icelanders brewed, but. I said, "Oh, what's your favourite then?" And he said, every year in Iceland, well, it must be elsewhere as well, I imagine, but Tuborg bring out a Christmas beer. I think it's called Julebrig or something like that. And he said the Icelanders are obsessed with this Christmas beer, and like they do their countdown not to Christmas, but to the day they'll be able to get the Tuborg Christmas beer.
Oh, that's incredible.
So I really wanted to try and get this Tuborg Julebrig beer. So that might be a little bit of a teaser for the future. But I found Tuborg themselves just a little bit difficult to navigate to try and get hold of their beer. But obviously some people have managed okay. And but I was still struggling to find out much more about Fiçi as well.
It surprised me because they feel like they're quite a big name everywhere else, but not really in the UK whatsoever.
Well, I think in the UK we've got just a lot of competition for these types of beers. I think that's the thing, because Tuborg isn't like a small craft brewer. They're well established. They've been around. They're really good with their pilsners. They're going obviously hard and loved by their their original, the green one, which we're familiar with, Drabs, from our skiing trip. But it's just, we aren't the market for them. But, the fact that they've got a Turkish beer that's quite popular, that's quite fascinating to me. This is very different. I've not tried something that tastes like this, but the more I've drunk of this, actually, the more I'm coming around to Barber's frame of mind. But maybe that's just what I'm thinking of more about, like, drinking these kind of more mass beers anyway. Like, after a while, I'm like, okay, I've enjoyed that, and now I'm done. I'm good. I'm up for something different now.
No, I get that. It is a mass-produced, and it's a palatable flavour. It's not horrific or anything like that. I've actually quite enjoyed drinking it.
Yeah,
all the way down, but I wouldn't want to drink it regularly.
I think what I give this beer, this Fiçi by Tuborg, is the fact that it's different. I've never had something like this before. Like, I've had very malty beers before. You always think of that kind of the beers, the lagers or pilsners that have got more flavour. You're thinking of, like your Brooklyn breweries. You're thinking of your Tiger beers. There's a whole big brewery scene that fit within this as well. But I've never had something that looks and is presented like this before. So I give Tuborg Fiçi this, that I've never had this before.
And I think more breweries should go along to the way of the bottle opening, the way they do. I think it's great.
No, they got patent on it or something like that.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, they must own that.
But those things, they don't last that long these days, patents, do they? I don't think. So...
I do like the pull top. I think that's cool. I think to get rid of the whole screw caps are one thing and they're quite interesting, but the pull top is very. I do think of Tuborg though. So even if another load of breweries were to do this, I'd still think of Tuborg.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Maybe you're just backing up, especially in those countries where like Tuborg Original and Tuborg as a brand is really big. Like you couldn't not think Tuborg when you see these caps being pulled.
Legit.
So Instagram, they have 23k followers. And Twitter or X, I don't know if they've had a beef and they've moved over to Threads, but I can't find them on X or Twitter, so they must be somewhere else. Even though on their website they say they've got Twitter, but it's still the original Twitter sign, so they might not have updated that, if I'm quite honest. So I think first time we've touched on Tuborg, huge in a lot of parts of the world, not so big in the UK, but that doesn't mean not to try them out. I think they're interesting, and Rich and I have got fond memories of our original Tuborg experiences.
Green Tuborg.
And this Tuborg Fiçi is interesting, to say the least. And I love the bottle.
But I reckon you will struggle to find it in the UK, other than this small Weymouth shop that I found it in.
But Travers, we are global. We're not just a UK-focused podcast now, so,
Hello to all our followers. In Turkey, in particular, on this occasion.
And that's all we have time for this week's episode of the I'll Try That podcast. And so from me, Joe,
Rich,
Barber, and Simo,
goodbye. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram,
Twitter,
I'll try that podcast.com.
and watch us on YouTube.
Goodbye now.